over 5 seconds behind Jamie Caroline. Remember, both of those cars have success penalties to serve, but Kibble's success penalty is 5 seconds shorter than Caroline. So if they were to pick now, he would come.
More flavors, more mazza. Now in an exciting new look. Seen on Hay.
Cowley for a moment I thought was just going to bulldoze him out of the way. That Mustang looms over the McLaren, doesn't it? He's got the inside though, coming into Coram. Matt Cowley tries to get the place back. The Mustang has the room, but it's all sideways, fighting for grip. All of this, of course, is enabling Ewan Hankey to get away. Patrick Mathieson is ahead, but then he breaks a fraction late coming to the end of the lap. That brings Cowley onto his tail. There's the very impressive Ben Tuck next in the queue as well. So as they head up towards the line, you've got three of them all squabbling now. HHC has lost one car, remember, out of the race already. Patrick Mathieson has gained a place, but this is getting very, very leery between the three of them. Down towards Riches. Matt Cowley again, perhaps to line up for a go on the inside. Coming out of the corner, Patrick Mathieson fending him off. He moves across, covers the line. Cowley thinks about the outside. He got it wrong here, didn't he, at the end of race one and lost some places. Ben Tuck is up with them, and Tuck could well now be the best chance for Mathieson to get away, because if Matt Cowley has to go defensive, that would play into the hands of the McLaren.
It's funny, isn't it? Mathieson looked quicker than Cowley when he was behind him, and now he's in front, he can't escape. It's just the pressure of having that car behind you, weaving around, distracting you, flashing the lights maybe. But now he's settled into a bit of a rhythm. Again, the McLaren, much better traction off Palmer. Interestingly, there's BMW, which is a similar shape, similar design to the Mustang, front engine, big boxy GT4 car, and yet that seems to be able to get the power down a little better than its American equivalent.
Number 9, McLaren then going for a place. This is Angus Fender versus Ollie Wilkinson. Now, why is Ollie struggling in this race in a way that he wasn't in the first? Angus Fender, having had one off, he's back on track and going really well, because don't forget he's had to play catch-up here, and he has caught, and he's now being held up by Wilkinson in the Optimum car, the 2Cs McLaren you're riding with. Lots of spray, and it's dirty spray now from a well-used track all day, being thrown into the face of Angus Fender. But as they come up towards the timing line, the 2Cs McLaren is, I think, ready to make its move. They could not be closer as they come past the pits then. Down towards Riches, to the outside line goes Angus Fender. He moves across to the inside, but that's the off-line way to try and get past, and he can't do it.
Takes a wide line in though. What about the run towards Wilson? He's carrying more speed off the corner. Wilkinson's a bit sideways, but there was a net gain there, I would say, for the orange Optimum car, which defends into Wilson. So wide, right out to that yellow line. Through the right-hander goes the number 9 car, but Fender still cannot get through.
We were discussing in the first race about how the McLarens were coping well with the conditions that I think it is fair to say were wet conditions, whereas these I would still label as greasy. McLarens are 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. No better than that. This would suggest these are not McLaren conditions.
Yeah, maybe in full wet conditions they can get the most out of their wet tyres, whereas now they're relying on the traction from the chassis itself and that power deployment that we mentioned earlier on that has been catching them out. So yeah, interesting. You would think on the face of it this should be a similar kind of race, but it's just that little bit less wet, and it is throwing a very different dynamic. This battle is still raging on. Jack Mitchell and Joe Osborne, as there, Andrea Caldarelli is creeping back towards Jelmer Berman. This is interesting because Berman was pulling away from him in the earlier stages, and now Caldarelli is just starting to reel him in. On the previous lap, Caldarelli was 1.1 seconds quicker. He's only 1.6 seconds back at the start of the lap. It was a personal best for Caldarelli and not personal best for Jelmer Berman. He was about a second off his best, so I wonder if maybe Jelmer had a little wobble out on circuit somewhere. Into the final corner they go then, and the gap continues to close.
And the Bentley has just rejoined the party. 7 laps down, there it is. Scott Malvern at the wheel. So primarily this, I think, really is to give Nick Jones the chance of some mileage. But, of course, if that car does enough laps to be classified and other people do not finish, it would gain some points. So need to see how it fares on distance, whether it will be classified as a finisher. But as the cars now turn their way up through Riches, Scott Malvern, he's not going to fight for places, but the car is in the race just to tip that off the record sheet, as it were. McLaren battle rages on still. 96, Ollie Wilkinson versus number 9, Angus Fender. So he sat behind him for another lap, being held up arguably by the Optimum car. Up now towards Riches, and again Fender tries that wide line in, but he's not close enough to then duck up the inside on exit, is he?
Yeah, he's going in on the wide line, but not carrying as much speed off the corner as Wilkinson on the tight line. He's always going too wide onto that green painted surface on the extreme left of the road. So he's got all the right ideas, but not quite executing it right at the moment. Fender will be getting increasingly frustrated here as well, because that car is now 40 seconds nearly away from the race lead. And of course, their sister car got the team's first victory in race 1. And I'm sure there will have been a little rivalry there between the 9 and 10 squads as to who was going to get 2C's Motorsports' first ever British GT victory. It was the 10 car that got it, and the number 9 car will want to try and repeat that in race 2. Out of Agostini, again scrabbling for grip in this section of the track. Fender closes back in again, but he can't really do anything about it. Oh, apart from almost running to the back of Ollie Wilkinson into Hamilton. Wilkinson was very slow through the left-hander, and now Fender does get to the preferred line. There's contact going into Oggies. Can he keep it on the road? Yes. Can he get a better run off the corner? Yes, but again, nowhere to go. The orange McLaren occupies the ideal line. That was a very tight squeeze.
Ollie Wilkinson looks like he's struggling, doesn't he? And you could offer an argument to say, just let him go, because the last thing you need is to get tangled up. You haven't got the pace. If this is going to end messily, then you're out of the race. Well, that doesn't help anybody. So if the car is genuinely quicker, let it go. Then your co-driver can do something in the second stint, because clearly Angus Fender is looking the quicker of the two at the moment. In fairness, Ollie Wilkinson is doing a good job of defending, but can he do it for much longer? Because now Fender goes to the inside line, down to Bombhold. He commits to the inside line, wait for the bang. It doesn't come, but it almost did. Fender gets a bit crossed up there as he goes through the corner. That was his best chance yet, but I think both of us there had a sharp intake of breath, waiting for the contact that mercifully didn't quite come.
There is no grip on the inside line into the bomb hole, and that is where Fender was, and it looked as though he was committing to the move. You're right, he's way quicker than Wilkinson, and you're also right, Wilkinson probably would be better served to let him go. But in fairness, they're not being caught by Michael O'Brien behind them. So, around goes Matt Cowley. Matt Cowley spins in the Mustang coming out of Oggies. We believe he's been on the grass, possibly at the preceding corner, Hamilton, and that takes him well and truly out of that fight. He was behind Mathiasen anyway. He was ahead of Tuck at the start of the lap, so he has lost one position, but more importantly, David, a lot of time on the track, and we're going to see, I think, in a moment exactly what happened to him.
Here you go. So he gets the power down, slithers up onto the curb. Wet painted curbs don't help for traction, so that gets the car onto the grass. His tyres are very dirty indeed. Thankfully, he avoids the BMW, but as he comes back onto the road, around it goes. So no damage, dirty tyres for a lap or so, but Matt Cowley quickly gets back into a rhythm and actually did quite well, only to lose one place there.
Yes, he did. They were some way ahead of the next battle, but yeah, that's definitely lost him some time.
Can I take issue with an earlier statement? Because I reckon Michael O'Brien is catching these two now. At the time, you were absolutely right, but Ollie Wilkinson has done such a job of being the cork in the bottle, and Angus Fender is stuck, that Michael O'Brien, he's not with them yet, but he is certainly closer. The margin has been coming down, and he's managed to find another 7/10 in the first sector of this lap alone. So, again, you've got the McLarens running together. They're all different teams, of course, representing the brand, but right now Michael O'Brien is joining the group as Phil Keane is self-isolating, really. He's on his own. He's got himself up through the GT4 traffic. There in second place is Sandy Mitchell, who, don't forget, has to serve when he hands over to Rob Collard another 7 seconds within the pit stop. And in third place, a long way back now, is there Yelmer Berman, who's got Andrea Caldarelli tucked up behind him.
Yeah, so the real race here, I suppose, is Keane back to Berman, because as you said, the car in between them has a success penalty. Fender eventually gets through at the bomb hole where we thought he wouldn't be able to overtake, but he made it stick this time. There was a little paint traded, I think, as he muscled his way through, but having spent 22 minutes nearly stuck behind the Optimum car, I think he will feel it was deserved.
So he's had a look one lap before, goes this time. There was contact, but I'm afraid to say that was probably the only way it was going to happen for Angus Fender. And in fairness, he was alongside anyway, so that